Hey, this is Beane. We're live. Alan Garber. We're live, man. What's up, man?
That's old school. You gotta be a big Johnny Beane fan to remember that.
You got to get one of these, man. They're awesome. See, that's all you need. That's all you need. So hey, before we start, let me just remind everybody: if you like Van Halen, this is the place you want to be. Johnny Beane TV. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell so you know when we go live, and smash that thumb. And we'll be talking about some Van Halen guitars here. So I'll play the intro, and then we'll start. Here we go. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Man, dude, hey, here we go. Let me just say really quickly here, today is, what's the date here? September 23rd, 2021. It's 2:10 p.m. Eastern, which means for you, it's 1:10, right?
Central Time in Houston, Texas. Yes, sir.
Central Time in Houston, Texas. It's 11:10 a.m. out here in Santa Cruz, California. And I've got some quick announcements for you guys. Let's see. Here on Johnny Beane TV YouTube channel, we have channel members. And if you'd like to become a channel member, click that join button right below the 5 thumbs ups we have currently. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you. And the top tier of channel members here are the executive producers, and they are Charles Green, Stephen Franklin, Joe Christian, Michael B., Thomas Santiago, Music Therapy Laz, Bent Tom, The Chad, Dave Ennis, James Gum, Jarhead Rock, Wayno, Michael Smith, Andy Carson, John Moronic, Jim Roy Hawkins, Majestic PB and J Cat, Mike Neese, R-Habs, Lindy Lou and Mary, False Flag, and Steve Carmichael. That is the top tier of channel membership here on Johnny Beane TV, here on YouTube. And if you'd like to become a channel member, again, click that join button right below the thumbs. 8 thumbs ups. Thank you, guys. Keep those going. We got 24 currently watching here on YouTube. And if you'd like to help support the channel, support these shows, any super chats will change the color of my lights. So if you look behind me here, you'll see what we call the guitar moire. That's where we keep all the guitars. There's lights in there. Any donations towards the channel will magically change those colors. So if you want to have some fun, it's interactive with the show. There you go. It's right below the chat. You'll see a little $ right there. And we're also currently live on Johnny Beane TV Facebook page, where if you'd like to help out over there, we have Facebook Stars, which is a digital gift which helps with the production of these shows. We're also the second largest Van Halen Facebook group on Facebook. Van Halen 1974 to 2020, currently just under 63,000 members. Join the Van Halen group. If you like Van Halen, that's the Facebook group you want to join. Well, that's one of them. Well, it's just join it, please. Just join. Alan's there. I see Alan there all the time. He has a great time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of 5150s in there. This is also a podcast. You can actually ask Siri to play the Johnny Beane podcast on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcast, Amazon Music, and we're also a podcast on Facebook. So again, Johnny Beane TV Facebook page, you can actually get the podcast. And this episode with Alan will be a podcast probably later today. So there you go. Alan, dude.
What's up, old friend?
First of all, man, let me say it's great to see you because I mean you've been on here several times. I mean it's been years, you know. Actually, right below this, right in the chat here, right below, they've suggested videos. I just happened to see that one of the videos down below, for me anyway, is a video of you on the channel here talking Van Halen from like 5 years ago.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think you and I hooked up about maybe a little over 6 years ago, because my daughter is 6 years old and she was just an infant when I jumped on with you and Nesdal. So it's been a minute. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now that's why I have another child, as you know, and so that's why I'm never on these things anymore. So, you know, just for the viewing and listening public, my son is 3 years old, and I've got him occupied with his, with his little pad. So, if you hear some screaming and jumping around and all kinds of chaos, that'll be him, and you'll see me disappear really quick, and then I'll be back.
It's all good, all good. All good, man. Well, hey, let's say hello to the viewers that are watching us today. We got Browns fan, we got Halface, we got Poo Ninja, we got Paul Martin Woods. He's in the UK. It's after 7 p.m. where he is. Hey, yeah, welcome, man. See, Paul, we're doing this for you, man. This is special for our friends overseas. G. Butchnoff is here. Let's see, Tanner Jordan is watching us. Tim Thomas, Dave Ennis, and I think Kai Matthews is also here. Yeah, say hi in the chat. Let us know where you're watching from. Again, smash that thumb. Subscribe if you're brand new. Again, if you like Van Halen, this is the place you want to be. Ask Alan. He'll tell you.
That's right.
Man. So basically, we're going to talk some Van Halen guitars. I know we all have a favorite, or maybe we just love them all. I don't know. But specifically, I think I'd like to talk about the Frankenstein. You know what? This one right here. I don't know. Did you see the video, man? I was gifted with this EVH Frankenstein Stripe series.
Wow. And I got to the point where you were about to unbox it, but you hadn't at that point.
I ruined it.
It was a big buildup.
Oh, man.
But that's awesome, though, man. Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Incredible guitars. And have you seen one of these in person yet?
No, I haven't. I have not. I rarely get out of the house anymore. But yeah, that is awesome. It's one of those things where we never thought that we would see the day, where something like that would be available to regular people.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah, just incredible.
It really is. It really is. And they did a great job with that one, to get it to like a mass level and be able to afford to do it and afford to sell it for a reasonable price, and it's pretty, all things considered, it's a pretty good replica for the money. It's not, obviously it's not perfect, but that's where the dollars start coming in when you start reaching for perfection. But as far as like a really, really cool production model that, is, they knocked it out of the park on that, I think,
I think so too. I think so too, man. They're just amazing. So yeah, so let's start with the Frankenstein. Actually, I have a poll in the chat here that I started a while ago. Feel free to vote. If you're on YouTube, you can vote in this poll in the chat. It says favorite Frankie colors, black and white or red, black and white. Currently, the red, black and white is leading by 67% in the poll. 69%. There we go.
Wow.
So, which one do you like better? I have an idea, according to the thumbnail.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, my personal favorite probably is the black and white version of it, as you see it around the time of the recording of the first album, and it's been confirmed pretty well that the guitar was in that black and white phase during the recording of the first album and the second album, and that's like a personal favorite of mine. I don't really have per se very many Van Halen replicas that I've got some things that basically are physically like it without the paint job. So I have a 5150 Kramer that's just painted all black, that's not striped or anything like that. That's really that's accurate, fairly accurate to the real one in all other terms, in terms of the hardware and all that kind of stuff. And it's the same thing with my my 78 replica. I've got it's a Musicraft roasted Northern Ash body and a Lock Custom Guitars neck, and the rest of it is all a bunch of my personal preferences. But it's a standard Fender tremolo, and I prefer the standard Fender tremolo to the Floyd Rose. But yeah, that's my personal favorite. So I'm going to say this real quick, even before we get into it. As far as, people are really interested in the history of the Frankenstein, and you just had Brad Talinsky and Chris Gill on your show, and they, as many people know, they released a teaser for that book in this month's Guitar World, and they did a great long form excerpt on the history of the Frankenstein. And if anybody wants to know what the history of the Frankenstein is in probably more detail than we're going to go into today, you want to look for that book, which is about to come out. Some people have advanced copies, but the book's coming soon. Yeah. So people. Yeah,
I read it pretty fast because when I had them on the show, it happened really quick.
Yeah.
It's like Brad, he's a Facebook friend of mine, and I just said, "Hey, do you want to come on at some point, maybe a Friday in the future?" He's like, "How about this Friday?"
Awesome.
And so it happened real fast, and they're actually coming back. They're actually going to be back next week.
Oh, that's great.
But I'm going to have them on an Instagram Live and on an Amazon Live, because awesome. I have shows over there as well. So
awesome.
So make sure to tune in. We'll be talking more about that in the next couple of days.
Yes, indeed. And essentially that timeline of the Frankenstein was pretty well compiled and kind of vetted by Chris Gill, who referred to some of our friends, Dimitri Douglas and Donnie Ward. Their work is represented in that timeline. And Johnny Burgess was the guy that inspired them. Johnny Burgess, really cool guy who does the How to Paint a Frankenstrat video, well-known video on YouTube, and he came up with some interesting research too, and that, as I understand it, inspired Chris to kind of get deeper into doing that Frankenstein timeline, and the timeline appears in this month's Guitar World, and it's an awesome article. You can go check that out. There's also another site called VanHalenGear.com, and that is also sort of vetted by our buddy. I think Donnie Ward, who is amazing, as you know. He's got a mind for this stuff that just is incredibly exacting. He's kind of done as much as we can do with the evidence that we have before us on a lot of this stuff, and particularly the Frankenstein. He's nailed down a lot of good stuff. So those are kind of two resources that you guys can go to if we don't answer the question or that in this kind of short time that we're doing this today. Yeah,
but we're gonna try. And if you guys have any questions, leave them in the chat right there. And if you're on Facebook too, on Facebook we'll get there's a. Can you see the chat, by the way?
I can. Hey Tanner, what's up, buddy? Jimmy Carr. I can see them. I can see you guys.
Hey, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys. Yeah. So there we go. We've got the chat going. So any questions you got about the Frankenstein, about any of the Van Halen guitars? I think we're mainly going to talk about. I don't know. I mean, see, my favorite is the 5150, the Kramer 5150. That's my favorite. So, if you guys have any questions about that guitar, feel free to ask. But man,
it's not all settled scholarship, but we've kind of reached a point at this stage where we know a lot more about both of those guitars than we did even like a year ago. There's always new information coming to light, and even after Eddie's been gone, there's been more stuff that's come out, and it's kind of been a boon to the fans, to kind of zero in on some of this stuff. So I guess I can kind of start running down if we're going to start with the Frankenstein guitar, which
sure.
Obviously it's iconic, and I'm just going to refer to some of the stuff that's on the VanHalenGear.com site, but
okay.
The guitar started out, as near as we can tell, it actually started out with just the body. I don't know whether he bought the body and neck simultaneously, but he didn't use both the neck from the first album that we're all familiar with. He didn't use that neck at first. He used the neck from another guitar that he had, another Fender Strat.
Mm-hmm.
And so originally it was just a natural ash body, and he had, when it first appeared in February of 77, it had the rosewood fingerboard and Fender Strat neck on it. It had the black pick guard that we see on the first album.
I've got some you sent me some photos here. Let me
mm-hmm.
see if let's see, Facebook. Is this the one you're talking about right here?
Yeah, that's the one. That's the condition that the guitar was in when it was first on stage. And it stayed like that from February of 77 to March of 77, roughly. That particular picture is from February 18th, 1977.
Wow.
And then so then after it was in that stage, and of course it had, as you can see, it's got a zebra humbucker in there. That. And of course, it's got the standard Fender tremolo on it.
Yeah.
And
your favorite.
My favorite, absolutely, by a long shot. And then the next phase of it, which was from March of 77 until July of 77, was when it got painted black. And you'll see those pictures of Eddie wearing kind of like a pink tank top with a banana chasing a donut. Make of that what you will. So at that point, he ended up painting it black. So it's the same guitar. He just painted it black, and that was confusing for a lot of people. And I'm not going to go down the whole list of evidence, but the evidence is there. This is what happened. He took off the black pick guard and put on the kind of mint green Strat pick guard from the 61 Strat that he had, which was a sunburst, and then he painted the guitar black. And so you can see that the pickup is probably the same pickup that he had in it before, and you can see how kind of rough it was. He was experimenting with different pickup positions, and in another guitar. So he had a swimming pool route in another guitar, and he kind of kept moving the pickup back and forth until he found the sweet spot. And then he took roughly that measurement and then applied it to this guitar. So the Frankenstein, was the result of tests that he had done on another guitar.
Right.
And then shortly after that, I'm just kind of go down the timeline. Shortly after that, starting, as far as we know, I think it's pictured for the first time with the black and white paint scheme and the black pick guard and essentially the condition that you see it on the cover of the first album, and really around the pictures that were taken close to the time of the recording of the album, which would have been in August and September of '77. So the guitar was relatively newly black and white stripe painted, within at least maybe a month of going into the studio to record Van Halen 1. So, that's when he took the black pick guard, slapped it on there. It made it look like the first famous version that we know of, right? So, yeah, so there it is on the right. That's it right there. Yeah, so that's what it ended up looking. Hold on just a second. Be right back.
If anybody needs to use a bathroom, this is your chance. I actually need to get something to drink. I need to grab a Waterloo. But hey, smash that thumb, you guys. Smash that thumb. I'm gonna grab something real quick. There's those.
So that's where we were at there. So that was that's the famous version of it, and that guitar stayed like that for the entire recording of the first album and the second album. So people aren't aware that the guitar was just like that for the first and second albums, and the black and yellow striped guitar that came later, ended up being used on tour, but not. The likelihood is that it was not used on the album. Right. There's some gray area going on in there because Eddie had. Well, that's a whole different story. I'm going to stay on the Frankenstein, but as far as we know, the first and second albums were recorded mainly with the black and white striped version of the Frankenstein. And so it stayed like that from July of '77 until February of '79. Then there was kind of a real super brief phase where he had taken all the small pinstripe tape off of the guitar, right, and slapped in a couple of pickups and had a white pick guard put back on there, and then had a rosewood board Fender neck on it, probably either rosewood or board Fender neck or rosewood board Boogie Body's neck. And that was in February to late March of '79, probably February '79, and those kind of few pictures that we have of the guitar like that. And then pretty shortly after that is when he started getting into the red, black, and white paint scheme, to where it became the famous version that you see right next to the text us number at the bottom of your screen there, folks.
Yeah.
So it looks like it's starting to look like what we know it as, the way it, of course still at that point, it still had a Fender tremolo on it. It took quite a while before he got a Floyd Rose on it. The Floyd Rose was a long process. It wasn't just, put it on and everything's hunky dory. He had to go through a lot of experimentation using it on the Bumblebee yellow and black guitar.
And probably another guitar he had it on.
Yep. Yep, he had another there, and but for the longest, it was only the black and yellow guitar, and then he started getting more guitars to experiment with different Floyds and different things to combat what he didn't like about it. But it was a process, and of course, Floyd was still going through his process of trying to refine the Floyd Rose. And, you can even, when you listen to the bootlegs of Eddie playing the black and yellow Charvel on the late 79 and 80 tour, the guitar's fairly well out of tune a lot. And it's, it just is, because there was, the fine tuner situation was not there.
Right.
And
right.
You can do the best you can do with the old style ones without the fine tuners. And, there's ways of making it work, but it's tough. And it was experimental for Eddie back then, even. So you can actually, there are some things that you can hear where he's playing. There's points where he has the Bumblebee guitar with the Floyd Rose and the Frankenstein with the original Fender tremolo on it. And he's using both of those guitars live for a period. And you can almost tell where he's out of tune is when he's using the Floyd Rose, and he's in tune when he's using the Fender. But that was mostly Isn't that funny?
Total opposite.
Yeah.
Of what you would think.
Yeah, but that's because of the absence of the fine tuners on the bridge that came later. So he came to terms with because again, with more experimentation, you can get better at keeping it in tune. Yeah, and so there's the fine tuners that Johnny's showing you right there. That helped a lot. And that, of course, that just sort of became the way we all think of the guitar. And again, there's several different phases that it went through, but that was the main guitar in really almost every interview Eddie gave from probably 78 until 88. He claimed, or actually 78 until 2015. He claimed that he used that guitar on every Roth Van Halen album. As the guitar with when there's a Floyd Rose track, he claimed that he used it on every Roth era track or any tremolo track.
Right.
I don't know that the only exception to that I think might be that there's no confirmation that he ever used it on Women and Children First, because at that point, the tremolo work that you hear on the album is Floyd Rose work. You can hear that it's a Floyd Rose because it's got like this full slack kind of capability that you can't get with a Fender tremolo. And, to my ear, and through the photographs, I don't think he actually used it on the album. That's my opinion.
Like on Tora Tora.
Exactly like on Tora Tora. In fact, I point people to your video of how to play Tora Tora to explain to them why and how you can't do that with a Fender tremolo. You cannot achieve the full slack on a Fender tremolo. You can get it. Yeah. Yeah. And so so you guys look for Johnny's video, Tora Tora. You might even put a link for it later or something.
There'll be a card right up there at 2706. There'll be a card. Dude. And the way I found out how he did that was I had a Tascam. I used to rent 4-tracks back in the late 80s to do recordings. And late at night after recording stuff, I would just mess around. I'd play tapes backwards. So I heard every Van Halen song up until 1988, up until 812. I heard everything backwards just for fun, right? And I remember hearing Tora Tora, backwards, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's in real time. I heard exactly what he did. Yeah. And so years later, about 10, 12 years ago, I did a video here on how to do that, and there'll be a card right there. And well, thank you so much for sharing that with people, man.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great example of what Eddie was able to do. Now, and again, as far interview evidence and photographs basically prove that and people are going to blow up the internet, I guess, and argue with me, but the Women and Children First, the only guitar that he had with a Floyd Rose at the time of the recording of Women and Children First was the yellow and black Charvel. He had not gotten the extra thick body mahogany guitar until after those sessions. How do I know this? Because there was an interview, a Steven Rosen interview, where he had played Steven the entire album, and he talked about the Floyd Rose tremolo and what he disliked about it. And he says, well, I ordered a new thick body mahogany guitar, and I'm thinking maybe a chunky piece of wood will make up for the fact that it's got a thin sound, but it hasn't come yet. So he was waiting on that to be shipped to him from Boogie Bodies, and it hadn't gotten to him by the time of the interview. And the time of the interview was after the recording of the album. So even though that thick body guitar is pictured in those Niels Lozauer pictures that were taken around the time of the recording of Women and Children First, it's after the recording, that it's studio pictures, but those pictures were taken after the recording.
Wait a minute.
And you can say that it's staged. Yes. The pictures in the studio were yes, Keith, you are right. That's right.
He's like, wait a minute.
Yep.
Can't believe it.
Yep.
Hey, Keith.
Yeah, in fact, a lot of times when interviews were being done, when Eddie gave interviews after the albums, he would a lot of times actually be sitting with the interviewer, it'd be Steven Rosen or Joss Obrecht or later on Brad Talinsky and other people. he would play them the instrumental only portions of the record, and he would frequently have the entire album done instrumentally, and then the vocals were the last thing to be done. So they.
Where can we get those tapes?
I know, right? I mean,
I actually have some of them.
Yeah, well, those were the things that they were that. So you'll hear Steven talking about that, and because I've talked to those guys, and they confirm it. They're all like, yeah, he just played me all these tracks. I didn't know what they were called. They didn't have names, or they had working titles a lot of times. But there wasn't any vocals, so you couldn't really figure out what was going on, or might have been scratch vocals. You know what I mean? So so those pictures from Women and Children First, they may have been taken sometime around the time Dave came in to do the vocals. But they were, and they were staged in a sense to sort of make it look like they were in the process of recording. And it was the same thing with the second album. Those photos that Zlaz took of the second album, those pictures were taken, to the best of my knowledge, with the evidence that I'm aware of. Those pictures were also taken after the recording of the second album, so, and a lot of times those pictures are coming at around the same time that you're getting the interviews. Because like there'd be a photographer that would go with Rosen and take pictures.
I know one of them. One of them's a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
Hi, Glenn.
Yeah, I was gonna say Glenn LaFerman. He can attest to that probably. And I don't know if they let the photographers hear the music, but you might ask him if he got played any music while he was doing that kind of stuff.
We're actually, Glenn has invited me down to his house. And so at some point very soon, I'll be doing a show with him from his house. And it's going to be a total nerd fest, man. That's
going to be great. I mean, he's responsible for so many of the big time, well-known photos of him. And the kind of, his photos are interesting because a lot of times, I mean, he did like stage studio photos, but for some reason, Glenn's photos typically had the real unusual guitars in them. I mean, he had the famous ones, but he took a lot of really unusual ones. And even when he did the ad campaign photos, he was, those were interesting. He wasn't just necessarily Eddie just standing there with the Frankenstein. He might be holding other guitars that you don't normally even see, and kind of more of a casual pictures of him. Glenn's awesome, and I love his work, and that's going to be an awesome episode. You guys, hound Johnny to make that happen, because that's going to be a good episode, and I'll be tuning into that for sure.
I just have to get down there. He invited me to stay at his house, so I just have to get down there and do it. So hey, I'll let me see. I'll find one of his photos to show you guys. He's actually sent me tons of them, so I have them like in a message, like somewhere. But he's got so many just amazing. Actually, I might have to go to one of those to find one. But hey, actually, I see a question in the chat. Let me know. Our friend Jay Hannon, who will be live tomorrow night, by the way, talking more Van Halen. Again, if you like Van Halen, if this is your first time here, this is the channel. So subscribe to this channel. What do you think about Jay saying Roth took credit for Eddie striping the Frankenstein just at first, the black and white? What do you?
Yeah, I think Brad and Chris will tell you, and probably Greg Renoff, and it's fairly well. Eddie would claim that he got the idea himself, but we know about the guitar player from the Dills, which is mentioned in Brad and Chris's book Eruption, and in the article in Guitar World about the history of the Frankenstein. The guitar player from the Dills, his name was Chip Kinman, and he had done applied stickers and tape to his Les Pauls that he was playing in this punk band that was playing the same clubs as Van Halen was. And, he recalls the whole band even seeing them play. Eddie would not have been unaware of this guy doing this with the tape, and then, I think it's fairly okay to assume that Eddie had seen this. And either, I mean, Eddie would make the case that he invented it all, but Eddie certainly did the deal where he was, using tape and then removing the tape to reveal the stripes, so that so the stripes were all paint. They weren't actual, it wasn't actual tape. The guy from the Dills was using tape, and Eddie took it into a different direction and made it, a complete paint stripe scheme. So yeah, the answer is no. Roth had nothing to do with
that. He said he did. I heard it, man, on his radio show. He actually said, I have the audio somewhere. He actually says that it was his idea to paint the stripes on Eddie's guitar, and he called it UBAB.
He was. If he said UBAB in conjunction with that statement, Roth could have been the guy that said, "Oh, you and Rudy just, you can make this guitar." UBAB, UBAB. That's in relation to a completely different guitar than the Frankenstein.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
so that's what Roth said.
Yeah,
and that's what he said, and I would think. Who knows?
Who knows? I will say this: there's a lot of things that go on with Eddie's guitars and Eddie's playing that you can make some educated statements that kind of put it in the camp of more likely than not. That doesn't mean it's 100% proven with evidence. Mm-hmm. Because when you have a statement from Roth saying he came up with the idea to stripe the guitars. Well, then you have pictures of Chip Kinman with a striped guitar, and that Eddie saw and was aware of that band playing. And then all of a sudden, within literally weeks of when Kinman said he saw Van Halen seeing them play at the Whiskey, then all of a sudden Eddie's got the black and white stripes. Mm-hmm. So it's like that. I place that in the camp of, there's some definite circumstantial evidence that points to it being more likely that Roth had nothing to do with it. But anything's possible.
Anything's possible. But hey, anyway, here's a photo that Glenn took at 5150. In this picture, you can't see it, but Stephen Rosen is actually across from Eddie, and they're jamming together. And this particular shot is very special because a good friend of mine, Michael Gutierrez, won that guitar at the 1985 NAMM show. And for years, he's been trying to get a photo of Eddie with that guitar. And here it is right here, Yeah,
and I think that also in that series, there's a picture of Steven playing either the 5150 or that guitar, and Eddie playing another one, where the two of them are there with two red, black, and white striped Kramers. Right.
Yeah. I think with Eddie playing this one, that means Steven's playing the 5150.
Right.
Across from him. But I've played this particular guitar right here, and it's very cool.
That is way awesome. Yeah, it's safe to say we were all jealous of him.
Well, I wasn't, because I wasn't a fan yet, but we became friends years and years ago, and we see each other all the time. We hang out, and we're actually planning a future episode down at Kramer. Gary Kramer actually has a place just a couple hours south of me.
Right. I remember when you went to his wine launch.
Yeah. So yeah, we're planning something down there as well too. So
that's cool. Very cool. So yeah, let's see. I see Paolo asked the question, what were the pots, 500K or 250K on the EVH original Frankenstein Strat? To the best of my knowledge, it would have been a 500K Central Labs pot, I would believe. But who knows? He could have changed that, and probably did change that pot throughout the life of the Frankenstein. There's no telling. Supposedly, he got that pot, the original pot, or one of the earlier pots from the Gibson 335 that Eddie had, and supposedly he got the one of the first pickups, which would have been a patent number pickup, not a PAF. Eddie thought it was a PAF, but it was probably a patent number pickup that got put into the Frankenstein. So that double black pickup that's more famous from being on the black and white version, supposedly that one is from the 335, and supposedly the pot came from the 335, which would have been probably a 500K Central Labs pot at that point.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think? Talking about the Frankenstein, what do you think of the body wood? What do you think the wood was?
Yeah, it's to the best of my knowledge and to all the evidence that's out there, it's northern ash, and so this for people who don't know wood too much. Basically, northern ash is grown in dry climates, and swamp ash is grown in humid climates. So hence northern and swamp. The northern ash is generally heavier, denser, and harder. Swamp ash is a little bit softer and a little bit lighter. So the northern ash is what Lynn Ellsworth has said many times. In fact, Lynn used the term kiln dried furniture grade northern ash was what Eddie's body was made of, and the other of the series of bodies that were made around that time. So that was the basic stock. Hold on just a second. I gotta go deal with my son. Hold on.
Smash that thumb, you guys. Leave a thumbs up. And again, subscribe to the channel if you're brand new here. If you like Van Halen, this is the place you want to be. This is Johnny Beane TV. And if you're on Facebook, make sure to like the Van Halen group. Join the group, Van Halen 1974 to 2020. That's the group you want to be in. It's insanity. It really is.
I'm back. And then Keith asked, hey, Garb, what's the hardest thing for you to replicate on Frankie? I don't do any replication or any kind of that difficult work. My good buddy, Nick the Kid, did my paint job on my 78 Frankenstein, and he did an amazing job. So the knot is one of the interesting characteristics of the actual guitar. And that was one thing that Johnny Burgess got some really great pictures of the knot, and he kind of compiled a lot of good stuff that shows that knot that's in the lower horn on the inside. It's not something you see when you look at the face of the guitar, but it's kind of on the lower horn, on the part where your hand might go way up there. So, I couldn't tell you what's hardest to replicate. To me, it's all hard to replicate because I don't do any of that stuff. I just work on, my thing is I tune the guitars and I play them. So that's about all I know how to do. I let the guys that really know what they're doing, like I have my own guitar techs that set up all my guitars and do any of that kind of work. But there's some really amazing guys out there that do incredible work. That really know a lot about the replica part of it, and Johnny Burgess is one of them. Donnie Ward is one of them. Nick the Kid is always, he's like I often toot his horn, but I think he's really the best out there to me that I've seen on any of this kind of stuff. He's learned from some of the older guys that had been doing it before, like our friend Dimitri. And the guys that have been doing it for a long time. Nick comes along and he piggybacks on their work, and he brings his own really great artistic eye to it. Super talented artist, So there's really some really smart people that devote a lot of time and energy to the replication process. And that's kind of the cool thing about Johnny Burgess. He learned more things about the guitar by actually experimenting on making his replica and getting really detailed in how to achieve the layers. And, he basically, Johnny Burgess made it like he was like an archaeologist, and he was going through the strata just like you'd be going back in time through archaeology. You know, you're going through the different layers of sediment. You're going through the different layers of paint that happened and how they happened and what kind of tape was used. Johnny's video is amazing. When I first saw it, and that was, again, Chris Gill was, I think, inspired by seeing that video to even do this timeline thing, or at least, you know, certainly learned a lot of stuff that he didn't know from Johnny's video. Johnny, again, you know, he's looking at stuff that our buddies Logan Shank and Donnie Ward and Dimitri and all these guys that are really smart that have been compiling this evidence and pictures and stuff like that for so many years. And, you know, and he applied it himself. You know, there's, you know, as some of you guys know out there, this is a big community where we all just kind of learn from each other, and we, you know, we can take in the work and the knowledge and the evidence that other people have gathered, and we can use it to, you know, to build on, you know. So we're coming to a real good understanding of these things that just, you know, when I was, you know, 14 years old in 1986, I never would have believed we could have ever known as much as we know now. It's shocking. Of course, you know, who would have predicted there was an internet and all that kind of stuff, you know, but yeah, it's amazing what's going on right now.
It's incredible.
Oh, hold on. Got to go get my kid again. One home.
Again. Smash that thumb. How many thumbs do we have? How many people we got watching? 34 watching us on YouTube. We got 26 of these. We got one weirdo. Thank you so much. Thank you. Keith Campbell.
All right.
The Dreamer's
Let's go
Life.
through. Let's see if I can find any other questions. Keith Campbell notes correctly that the trem was never installed correctly. Yeah, it wasn't. Probably referring to the Floyd Rose. That's true.
Wow. Yeah, it's just amazing. It's just amazing, man. It's just amazing. I mean, like you were saying, back in the 80s, you know, because I learned a lot of this stuff reading the Jazz Obrecht stuff.
Oh yeah.
And then learning that we're actually related. You know, I don't know if you even knew that. He's related to my uncle.
Oh really? Wow.
Yeah. So it's not by blood. It's not by blood, but either way, it was still kind of cool reading that stuff, and then my uncle being like, "Oh yeah, I'm related to that guy." You know?
Wow. I'm gonna jump on what Tanner said. So Tanner's he's referring back to Women and Children First as far as the says it can't be after the recording because the mandolin he broke is in the photos, which was during the recording, and then he relates the story of Eddie jokingly broke a mandolin to mess with Ted Templeman during the recording of one of the acoustic songs. So there was really only one acoustic song. I mean, Take Your Whiskey Home had an intro, but I'll say this. I still say that those pictures are taken after the recording, not only because of what Eddie said, but that probably could have happened while Dave was present there doing the vocals at the end of the album. And, you know, so if let's say Eddie broke that mandolin during the recording of the real true acoustic number on the album, which is Could This Be Magic? Could This Be Magic was probably, you know, I would say probably recorded live with Dave playing the guitar. So, you know, really the instrumental parts of Women and Children First were done before those pictures were taken. Dave probably came in around that time, recorded his parts on Could This Be Magic, and Eddie might have even played along. You know, that sounds like one of those numbers they may have just recorded in one room live, you know, because that's the way it sounds to me. But, you know, that would fall into the category of vocal numbers, vocal parts. So, I mean, that's my answer to Tanner right there. So
thank you, Tanner, for the question.
Yeah.
And thank you, Keith Campbell, for the support, man. And see, the lights changed. See, you only want to see that here. It's
there you go.
Technology. Thank you so much, Keith. Man. Yeah, going back to I think thrash metal is actually talking about oh wait. Oh, by the way, listen to the podcast on Amazon Music. Thank you, Nightbot. He's talking about the internet. Yeah, it's going back to you know, reading the magazines and the articles back in the 80s. Yeah, you just couldn't foresee, you know, a time like this where we'd be able to talk to each other and talk about, you know, this stuff and get the information around and we'll just even meet. Like the only reason, like, we would never have met if it wasn't for Van Halen, for the guitar, you know, all that. And it's just incredible.
Yeah. We wouldn't have been hated by the same people if it wasn't for.
Well, I've got more of them now, so if you want some more, you can have them.
I love it.
Hey,
oh, so I'll jump back over here looking at the chat again. The Can't Drive 55 said, when did the Frankenstein actually get the final version of its Floyd? You know, my guess would have been around 1983 because he ended up sticking with the FRT 5 whale tail. That's the same one that's on the guitar right now. You know, so I'm going to say probably 1983 would have been when it got its final Floyd Rose. That's my guess on that question. And then the other thing, as we go back to Women and Children First again, Keith Campbell had said, I know he used it for Could This Be Magic? There's no mandolin on Could This Be Magic. I think the mandolin was just kind of hanging around there, and, you know, it was just a toy that they were screwing around with. But yeah, at any rate, yeah. It's just Roth's open-tuned acoustic guitar, and then Eddie overdubbing or playing the slide live on the other acoustic, and then the guys are singing. You know, so I'm probably I'm guessing maybe the vocals might have been overdubbed. You know, Eddie plays some very complicated stuff, so I'm sure if Eddie sang on that, he would have had to have overdubbed the guitar parts, because you can't play all that crazy slide stuff and sing anything at the same time.
Mm-hmm. You know? Mm-hmm. Talking about overdubs, let me just say this real quick. One of my favorite guitar Eddie solos is the solo from Michael Jackson's "Beat It," which was a huge deal. I mean, as far as it changed. I mean, popular music, having Edward, having the scene of Edward and the heavy metal cross over, you know, to the pop, you know, of Michael Jackson. But anyway, if you ever listen to the isolated track of his solo for "Beat It," I don't know if you've ever heard it. It was available years ago on it might have been the Van Halen mailing list, Merry Melodies or whatever that was years ago. But if you listen to that, to me, it sounds like the "Beat It" solo is all comped together. Like every phrase, you can hear a phrase, and then you can hear like silence. To me, meaning that it's like cut. Yes. So that solo wasn't all played in one run. It was taken from either different pieces or done again and again.
Oh yeah, 100%. And when you listen to Steve Lukather talk about the way the whole thing was constructed and how it was all, you know, weaved together. I mean, you know, it was a process on that, and you can kind of hear, sort of these pauses and sort of fades in that solo, and you don't even have to hear the isolated track to hear that. It's just, you know, it's compiled. It's a lot like the Jump solo, really, you know.
Right. You can totally hear when the tapping comes in, it's overlayered. It's slightly over the other part.
Right. And because you can't and you can also know this in Jump, you can know it because you can't physically jump from one part of the fingerboard down here to all the way up here in a microsecond. It's not possible. So it's kind of obvious when you listen to that. You know, here's an interesting thing about Jump that I people don't really speak on too much, but this is blasphemous. But the Jump solo, and I believe the rhythm guitar on Jump, was not the Frankenstein. It was the 58 Flying V.
Whoa.
That's a theory. It's a theory because there's no Floyd Rose on that track. So all of the songs that had no Floyd Rose on the 1984 album were done with the 58 Flying V. So ergo, Jump was done on the 58 Flying V, you know. And there's a little bit of evidence that kind of supports that, or at least circumstantial evidence. And that's basically whenever Eddie had a tremolo bar in front of him, he grabbed it and used it. Like, he could not resist using the vibrato bar if it was dangling there in front of him, you know.
That's one of the reasons why I cut down on using. That's why I use a lot of hardtail guitars now, because of always grabbing that and using it. And it makes you really dig in and be more creative if you don't have it.
100%. I totally agree with you. It's very true. I totally agree with that. And I know one of your favorite, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't your favorite, were you one of the guys that your favorite album is Women and Children First?
Yeah.
Yeah. And see, that's the cool thing about Women and Children First. Of course, he's playing the Chris Holmes Destroyer on a lot of that record. And the Floyd Rose tremolo, you know, all of the vibrato bar parts, as far as I can tell, are Floyd Rose. So it's minimal, and they're overdubs. You know, there's not a whole lot on there that's not a hardtail guitar, like the 335 that was used on the solo of And the Cradle Will Rock. You know, that stuff. And Eddie he goes to another level as far as like doing a lot more overbends and, you know, doing a lot of really cool stuff that you can only do on those hardtail guitars. And, you know, that's part of why I love the Destroyer, and why I found a vintage Destroyer and made it into the white version of the Destroyer, and why I did so much research on that guitar, was because I loved that. And I felt like, wow, some of the best tracks on Van Halen 1 were done with that Destroyer. At least half of the album was done with it, you know? So yeah, I agree. He changes his playing quite a bit, you know. But yeah, that's an interesting thing that I don't ever see anyone really mention. I think maybe one or two people I've heard on the internet actually mention that. But you know, surprise, surprise, I do want to say that I'm leaning towards the 58 Flying V being used for all of the guitar parts on Jump. And he's never mentioned that in an interview or anything at all, you know. Just a possibility.
Maybe. Yeah. Something I can tell you guys real quick about Jump is, like I told you, I have all the tracks from Guitar Hero. I have them in an iPod. Where is it? They're in this iPod. I have all the instrumental stuff from Guitar Hero, meaning all the guitars, all the vocals, all the bass, all the drums, all the keyboards, everything I have in here. And it's an old iPod. But anyway, if you ever heard the bass track from Jump, it basically plays what the left hand is playing in Jump. The left hand of the keyboard, the bass is actually doing. So if you listen to the actual finished recording of Jump, you hear more of the bass of the keyboard than you hear the actual bass guitar. But if you ever heard the bass track, which, like I said, I have, and I've cranked it in my headphones, you can hear actually Eddie playing the keyboard and the drums, and Roth scatting along to the song in the background. So you can hear Roth singing different lyrics to Jump in the back. And if I can get the track off this, I'll send it to you. You can hear it.
Cool. Yeah, I haven't heard it yet. No, I haven't heard that. I've heard some of the cool isolated tracks from the keyboards and stuff. I've heard some of that stuff, but I haven't heard that stuff you're talking about.
The bass track only.
Yeah, no, I haven't. Or if it was out there, I just hadn't listened to it yet. Yeah.
It was out there years ago, and I jumped on it. I grabbed it. And
I'm going to answer a question. Keith Campbell asked the question, when did Eddie acquire the vintage Flying V? It was January 2nd, 1981.
Cool.
He bought it from Dan Martin at the St. Louis Music Exchange place, where he bought all of his vintage guitars pretty much. So yeah, but he got it in 81, and he could have used the Flying V on Fair Warning somewhere. You know, I don't know that he used it on Diver Down, but you know, that if he got it as far back as that, you know, who knows? Yeah, I love the 58 Flying V. I got a Gibson 58 reissue Flying V, and you know, kind of set it up the way I like it, and I love that. So when I got I got that guitar. My guitar habit is really out of trying to learn the songs. I've talked about that before. Like I want to use the guitar that it's most accurate to the song that I'm studying and transcribing, you know, so that's why I built the most accurate Fender tremolo version of the Frankenstein that I could, you know, because I was using that a lot to figure out, you know, to work on the transcriptions of the stuff that I've been working on with my friends, some of you guys know I did an eruption transcription that I'd been talking about for like 6 years since I've known Johnny. Yeah. And it finally happened and finally came out. I ended up going in Guitar World, but I worked on that with a good friend of mine named Bill and a couple other people that really helped me a lot. And but part of my process is to get the most accurate guitar that I can to that. So like when I was really buckling down and trying to learn Hot for Teacher and Girl Gone Bad as well as I could and Drop Dead Legs, you know, that kind of spurred me into getting that 58 Flying V. And there's nothing like it. Like when you play and learn a song on an instrument that's almost identical to the one, or as close as you can get it to the one that Eddie actually used, it's kind of like there's a lot of things that fire off that are different. Like, you know, you might play things in a different position because you're playing it on a guitar that's more accurate to the recording than you might think of doing on a different guitar. And just about, you know, so many people just take a Strat style guitar with a Floyd Rose on it and just use that to figure everything else out, you know, but it's kind of fun and I find it kind of educational. And I rationalize buying more guitars by saying, by saying that it does help you learn and transcribe stuff. You know, I know that when I use a Fender tremolo, like we were talking about, you know, a Floyd Rose tremolo goes all the way slack. Well, you know, there are certain pitches that can be reached on a Fender tremolo that just kind of happen when you dip the bar. And when I was working on my eruption transcription, you know, that, like I said, that later ended up appearing in Guitar World in February of this year.
By the way, congratulations, man.
Thank you. I mean, I appreciate that. Thank you. It was a lot of work, really. Mostly me and my friend Bill had gone back and forth on that. And then, you know, I brought in a couple of other friends that did some, really interesting and profound work that helped me along in the process and you know, kind of nailed down some stuff that I wasn't sure on. And it's awesome. I'm still real surprised and honored that was even in there, you know, and again, only possible with the help of my friends that shared all the work with me. So it was super cool. But, you know, as I say, part of that process is like, you know, if you're trying to transcribe like how far the pitch of the dive goes when Eddie's diving with the bar, it helps to use a Fender tremolo, to me, or at least it helped me, rather than using a Floyd Rose, because you know, I say you can go past the point of no return with a Floyd Rose, but you can't do that with a Fender tremolo, you know. And once again, all of Van Halen 1 and all of Van Halen 2, any parts you hear with a vibrato bar on it, it is a Fender vibrato system. It is not a Floyd Rose. The Floyd Rose came on the Women and Children First album, and that was primarily just for some overdubs and, you know, it was a couple of things that were done with the Floyd Rose on that album. A lot of that album, as we were just talking about, was done with the borrowed Ibanez Destroyer that Eddie borrowed from Chris Holmes of Wasp. So.
Right. Awesome. Awesome, man. Well, hey, let's look at the, I know you said you had about an hour and we're at about an hour. So if you want to wrap it up, we can,
yeah, I'll look through and see if you see any other questions here. I'm going to look through and see.
If you have any questions, quick.
Yeah. Interesting thing about the Beat It solo that you mentioned, it wasn't recorded with Eddie's amp or amps. He was using some Hartley Thompson amps or an amp that was, I don't know if he borrowed it from Alan Holdsworth or if it was there at Westlake Studios when he recorded that solo, but that was Eddie playing the Frankenstein likely and a Hartley Thompson amp. Make of that what you will. But that's an interesting thing. That's one of his most famous solos, and a lot of people assume that he brought his own amp, but he didn't. He just showed up with his guitar, and that was it. You know?
Yeah, and you see that meme all the time about them saying that the solo was like so hot that the monitors burst into flames, and I mean, I'm sure that actually happened.
Oh, I believe it. Yeah, I believe it. I believe it. Well, Quincy Jones said that happened too. It wasn't, there's multiple people said that were there. So I agree. And again, it was the monitor. It wasn't the amplifier. It wasn't,
Right.
I can believe that, had probably absolutely zero to do with Eddie's playing or volume or any of that stuff. It's probably just some faulty wiring, I'm sure.
Oh my God.
But it's a funny anecdote nonetheless, and all the people that were around that session love to retell that story.
Somebody spilled a Waterloo on the console.
Yeah, probably something like that,
Man, I love that solo, man. The Beat It solo. That's one of my. I mean, there's just something about the tone. He does everything you could ever want. He does there, and there's that certain harmonic he does. I think you know what I'm talking about. The one that is you hear it, and nobody, like anybody I've heard cover it, nobody ever gets it right. I've never. You only hear it. Eddie's like the only one you can hear actually do it, and it's just like the baddest harmonic I've ever heard in my life, man. Like, isn't just amazing.
Yeah, there's things like that are like kind of chancy that are like that Eddie did better than anybody else to me. That were just captured luckily, or he just executed them luckily. Like he would nail like these great natural and especially artificial harmonics. Like he would do these artificial harmonics, and in later years he would, he loved to dig into those artificial harmonics and do the, whammy the hell out of it. Like he does one great thing of that during the beginning of the House of Pain solo on the album. It's like it's incredible. I mean, but that's like so happenstance. He's so good at that kind of stuff, and like it's been said many times, like that guy had the best pick slides ever. No one comes close to Eddie Van, not Jeff Beck or anybody else that's famous for pick slide. Eddie is the king of the pick slide, and he made that's one of my favorite parts of his playing. And it's so simple, and it's so like not thought out really. It's just like that guy just got the best sound on those things. And it's funny, and that's not like the kind of thing that you can really learn or teach or whatever. It's just that's part of that guy's DNA. And luck, and partly part of it's to do. He used like the thinner picks, like medium picks and thin picks will get you much better pick slides than you can get with any kind of heavy pick. Just FYI to anybody out there. So. Yeah,
because the pick is literally disintegrating as it's sliding, and that's what you're hearing.
Exactly. Which is funny because when I'm transcribing something and I'm trying to like figure out where the pick goes and what the pitch of the pick slide is and writing that down, right? I'll go through a bag of picks, just keep doing that for hours on one section, and try playing like Running with the Devil, which I believe has on every repeat of the main riff, you do a little pick slide in there in conjunction with the slide down the neck. And man, your pick is going to be toast because you play that little pick and power slide combination thing so many times during that song. Oh God.
Every time, yeah. Mm-hmm. And hey, Hef.
What's up, Hef? Jeremy is a great cook. That guy's always putting great food on Facebook, man.
I know, man.
Good stuff, man. Man, he's barbecuing and making all kinds of stuff. I can't even look at that. I can feel my waistline getting bigger whenever I see Jeremy's Facebook feed.
So hungry. Oh
Let's
my God.
Any other questions here, guys?
Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up pretty soon. But this has just been great, Alan. I mean,
it's been fun seeing you. We have, man, it's been so long, and man, it's just difficult. I'm a stay-at-home dad. I take care of my wife and my 2 kids, and it's a 24-hour day, 7 days a week job that I get zero vacation from. It's like, but it's cool. It's great seeing you. Great to answer some questions. I always love to come on your show, and if I could do it more, I would, and hopefully I will at some point.
Dude, I mean, you're welcome anytime. Anytime.
Thanks very much.
And of course, I mean, you're in the group on Facebook as well, and I appreciate you being there and being one of the sane ones, because there's so many, weirdos in there, but I get it. I mean, Van Halen fans, either they're like, like us, normal somewhat, actual musicians, and just love it. You know what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
there's a lot of trolls, and there's a lot of people that kind of jump on and do crazy stuff. But and as Johnny said before, the group is a great little group, and sometimes there's stuff that gets posted there that I have never seen before, and it's worth being on, even though there's still crazy people on there. It's and Johnny, I'm always messaging Johnny with all the posts that I try to do where they don't get let through from the filters that are on the group. But it's better to have those really ultra strict, almost nonsensical filters on it to kind of keep the group sane. So let's cut Johnny some slack for that on that group, because it is not, for the millionth time, it is not Johnny that is denying your post.
No. I don't sit here all day giggling, blocking people left. Well, I guess sometimes I have to, but no, people literally, people come after me.
Yeah.
Like, I see you, because, I make it so public, like I'm actually, who I am. And I'm like, my thing says, well, there's a different one, Google me, Johnny Beane, Google me. It's me. And it's just Van Halen fans, that's the one thing you can say about Van Halen fans is they love this band so much. They'll talk about the singer debate every day, no matter what. They'll talk about the guitars every day. It's every day. It's really the same thing, but every once in a while you'll get something new out of it. And
that's true.
It's just be thankful that we are even around during this time, where we're actually, some of us, got to actually see the band live. Some of us got to meet, Eddie. I got to meet Eddie. Thank you to some friends that helped with that. But I mean, it's just.
It's a big deal. There's there's so many stories that go on with the fans of the group and fans of Eddie that, people's lives are changed. I mean, it's a whole nerdy thing, but I mean, it's a fact. Like, people's lives get changed. My life changed because I was inspired to play the guitar by hearing Eruption and the first album, but mostly like hearing Eruption going into You Really Got Me when I was a kid. And that just was like a thunderbolt. And like, I had to figure out what was going on there, and I wanted to do that, and I did. And I spent, I'm 49 years old. I started playing when I was 8 years old, which is roughly around the time that album came out and the second album came out. And, where would my life be without it? I have no idea. Like, I met my wife playing at a club. I never would have met my wife. I wouldn't have had my kids. I mean, there's all kinds of ripple effects that happen from things like that, Like, our good buddy Caleb will tell you all kinds of cool stories like that. There's so many of us that have these kind of stories, and it's super stupid and nerdy, and it's not for everybody. But it is what it is, man. Yeah,
but the bottom line is, you and I wouldn't be friends if it wasn't for Van Halen. So thank you,
Correct.
Van Halen, for introducing me on Alan Garber.
Absolutely,
that's the number one thing.
And all of our good buddies out there,
Yes.
And so I don't know, I'll do a roll call of our good buddies that we've all met through there, like through this kind of thing, and that was like David Nesdahl, Rob Johnson, Dimitri Douglas, Donnie Ward, Tanner Jordan, Logan Shank. There's so many smart guys out there that I learn from every day, and it never ceases to amaze me how many smart people out there that you can learn from out on this goofy Van Halen tribe on the internet. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And most of them wear glasses.
That's right. And half, man, we got all these people that have been, you know, doing all this stuff for so many years, man. It's cool to see all these people hanging around and having fun and enjoying each other's company. You know.
That's right. That's right.
Cool.
Hey, Robot Master Switch. Man, we have a great time on Twitch every night playing Grand Theft Auto. If you can get some time, you should join us because it's amazing.
As I say often, I haven't played a video game since 1983 when I played Dragon's Lair when I lived in Santa Monica, and that was it. It's because I started playing guitar. I had no time for video games.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, awesome. Awesome. I think I'm going to let you go because I know you're very busy and I got to get something to eat. And I promised my viewers I would actually take them on a field trip to In-N-Out Burger.
Ooh.
So you guys keep it tuned right here to Johnny Beane TV on YouTube. I'll be going live again shortly at In-N-Out Burger and a special stop at Western Exterminators. There's one right around the corner from In-N-Out, and you know what I'm talking about. Yep. Yeah. So I'm going to stop by there and show people the logo on the door. Awesome.
That's cool. Well, good seeing you, Johnny, and it's great being here. Thanks for having me.
You too, man. Great to see you, and I'll see you in the group.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Okay. I'm going to let you go, Alan.
Cool.
Great to see you.
Take care.
See you, man.
All right.
Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Thank you. Let me say thank you to our channel members. Thank you so much for all your support here on the channel. These videos made possible by these people. And again, this is a podcast, so you can actually listen to this episode on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Facebook as well. And again, follow me on Twitch if you like, currently, if you like Grand Theft Auto, if you like video games, 10 p.m. Most weeknights, Pacific, 1 a.m. Eastern. We go live over there. Thank you so much, you guys. And as I said, I'm going to go live again shortly. I'm going to take you guys with me on a field trip to In-N-Out Burger. So it's about a half-hour drive for me. So I'll go live roughly when I get to the get to the restaurant. So I would say in roughly 30-40 minutes, roughly. Come back, and we'll have some. You guys, if you're not from California, I know you all know about In-N-Out, but I'll take you guys with me so you guys can see what it is, because In-N-Out Burger is what a hamburger is all about. All right, I'll see you guys later. Again, Johnny Beane TV. Subscribe. All right. Bye. David Allen Wright, dude, we just ended. Watch the replay, man, and you got to come back soon, dude.